Part 1. Forgotten biological memory. Imagine a deep night, no lights, no artificial light, just the silent ocean and creatures glowing like lanterns in the darkness. Fish, jellyfish, shrimp, thousands of species in the deep sea can emit their own light. Not from the sun, not from reflection, but from their own bodies. Now ask yourself, why can many creatures glow, but humans can't? This question sounds simple at first, but it has made many scientists stop for a long time. And then a strange discovery appeared. That is when some studies showed humans also have traces of a mechanism, bioluminescence. Sounds unbelievable, but your DNA, mine, carries within it a forgotten biological memory of light in the dark. The journey of following the light. In the early 2000s, a group of scientists in Japan announced something that seemed impossible. They captured images of humans glowing, not with X-rays, not with heat, but with real light, but so weak that the naked eye could not see it. They had to use extremely sensitive cameras in a completely dark room. They called the phenomenon ultra-weak photon emission. Not the bright light of deep-sea squid, but real light emitted by living cells. What's even more strange is that this light is not random. It has a cycle. Around noon, the light increases sharply, then gradually decreases in the evening. It's as if there is a biological rhythm of which light is a part. And that's just the start. In every cell, there's a small flame. To understand why humans can glow, however faintly, we have to take a step back to the cellular level. Inside your cells, oxidation reactions are taking place, where oxygen interacts with molecules, creating energy. But not all of the energy is converted into heat. A tiny fraction is converted into light. That's the basic mechanism of bioluminescence, and it exists in all life. From fungi to algae to bacteria. From the lamprey that lives 1,000 meters below the surface to us. The thing is, marine life has a specialized mechanism for producing bright light through an enzyme called luciferase. And here we enter the mysterious dark side of evolution. Humans once had genes related to luciferase, but they were turned off a long time ago. The secret of the forgotten genes. The human genome contains thousands of fake genes, also known as pseudogenes. These are stretches of DNA that were once active, but have now lost their function. And among them, some of them have a structure similar to the genes that make fluorescent enzymes in fish and microorganisms. This has led many evolutionists to ask, did humans, or our ancient ancestors, ever have the ability to glow? Genome sequencing data shows that deep in chromosomes 1, 2, and 17, there are stretches of genes similar to luciferase, but they are no longer active. The question is, why are they there? And if they were there, when did they disappear? No one knows for sure, but hypotheses are starting to form. When our ancestors lived in the dark, some paleontologists believe that our ancient ancestors may have lived in environments with little light, caves, dense forests, or even more nocturnal. In such circumstances, the ability to glow slightly, not necessarily as brightly as marine life, may have been an advantage. To recognize each other, to navigate, or to warn off predators. And then as humans evolved, gradually moving to live during the day, in open spaces, the ability to glow gradually became unnecessary and was overridden by other genes. Like a function that was gradually erased in evolutionary history. You know, the genome doesn't throw anything away. It just stores it away. Functions that aren't used sleep, but they don't disappear. That's why we have pseudogenes. Genes that serve as reminders. We were here. Light in the eyes, a long-lasting trace. Have you ever taken a photo in the dark and someone's eyes glowed red or blue? It's not just the flash. It's because the human eye, specifically the retina, has a light-reflecting layer called the tapetum lucidum. In humans, this layer is not as developed as in cats or dogs, but traces are still there. And it's the reason why eyes can reflect weak light. Some neurological studies even suggest that human eyes once had a similar mechanism to the eyes of glowing creatures, but it has degenerated over time. Are you starting to see it? Little traces, faint lights, as if the body's memory is still whispering. We used to know how to shine. Part 1 ends here, as the first step on the journey to discover the forgotten light in ourselves. But the story doesn't end there, because the big question still hangs. If the glow gene ever existed, Could humans reawaken it? And if so, what would happen if the human body started glowing in the dark again? What would be the fury? I contend of Part 2. Part 2. Awakening the glowing gene, the human body in the dark. Imagine a world where humans can glow themselves. Not from phones, not from fluorescent clothes, but your own body, from your skin, your hair, your eyes, emits a soft light like a blue flame in the dark. Sounds like science fiction? Then let's science talk. Scientists started to activate light. In 2017, at Harvard University, a group of synthetic biology researchers conducted a strange experiment. They inserted the glowing gene from jellyfish into human cells. And the cells really glowed. No significant side effects. No mutations. No deformities. Only light, soft, weak, but enough to see in a dark room. This is no longer a hypothesis. It is experimental data. And this opens up a prospect unprecedented in the history of human biology. Can we make our entire body glow like a deep-sea lamprey? The answer lies in a technology called silent gene activation. Genome as a symphony. Silent. Did you know? In the human genome, only about 1.5% of genes are actually activated. The rest is a huge sea of information lying dormant, inactive, silenced by millions of years of evolution. That is where sleeping genes reside, such as the gene that makes luciferase, the enzyme that enables bioluminescence. And thanks to breakthroughs in gene editing like CRISPR, scientists can now access this region of the genome, knock on its door, and ask, "Are you still active?" The surprising thing is, in many cases, genes that have been dormant for tens of millions of years are still reacting. They are not dead. They are just waiting. Animal experiments. When mice glow. At the MIT Institute of Technology, scientists conducted an experiment that shocked the world of biology. They transformed normal mice into glowing mice. Not by attaching lights. They simply introduced a gene sequence that produces a bioluminescent enzyme, similar to that in fish or glowing bacteria. The result, the mice's bodies emitted a green light, steadily, gently, for hours. Their eyes were brighter in the dark. Their fur also reflected weak light. Their biological structures were not damaged. In fact, according to some indicators, their immune systems worked better because the light helps reduce free radicals in their cells. Once again, this is no longer science fiction. Shimmering question, what if light were turned on in humans? Now stop and imagine. What would happen if we turned on the bioluminescent gene in humans? You wouldn't need a flashlight in the dark. Medical professionals could diagnose cancer or infection early, just by looking at the light changes on your skin. Emotions could be displayed in the color of light. Anger turns red, happiness turns yellow, depression turns purple. Criminals can't hide because their body's light reflects their mental state. The problem is that we don't fully understand the cost. Light up the body, but will the mind go dark? Some ethicists and neuroscientists warn that activating the bioluminescent gene is not as simple as turning on the lights. Everything in the body has a reason to exist and to be turned off. The bioluminescent gene existed, perhaps, because our ancestors lived in darkness. But modern humans live surrounded by artificial light all day and night. If we introduce light into our own bodies, our circadian rhythms could be disrupted. Sleep, which relies on the hormone melatonin, could be disrupted by the body glowing from within. Children could have problems with their sense of self. Society could develop a new division between glowers and non-glowers. And then there are those who exploit that light. The dark realities of glowing technology. Look at the dark side. Stalkers may be hiding, but you can't. Light reveals location. In war, it is the end. The emotional control system can use light to identify liars, opponents, even carriers of diseased genes. A society where the light from the body is no longer a choice, but an obligation. It is no longer a miracle. It is a shackle. And perhaps our ancestors knew that. So they chose to turn off the light within themselves. Science is standing at the door that can awaken a seemingly lost ability to glow from within the human body. But the question remains unanswered. Are humans ready to become luminous beings in a world that always tries to extinguish the light of others? We will go further into mystical biology, ancient legends, light in meditation, the ability to glow in mummies, and strange medical cases when the human body suddenly glows. Part 3. When the body glows, the mystery between science and myth. Do you remember the faint light once recorded from the human body by a special camera? It was not enough to light up the whole room, but it makes us shiver when we realize the living body, even without batteries, without electricity, still knows how to emit light by itself, like a smoldering candle that our ancestors once dreamed of.